Step into video game land. Welcome to Fine Time.
Hello, party people. It's your boy Dre. I believe we're here to talk about video games. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But today, Steve, I think we're finally gonna.
Oh, thank God.
Well, you didn't want to talk about the tile at Home Depot again?
No. No more tile at Home Depot.
That was the bane of my existence when I had to go with the family to the Home Depot. I was so bored. I would just go play with the toilets, Kevin. I don't know. Like, oh, look, this one has this kind of seat, and I just like.
Were you making pretend poops when you were playing with the
toilets?
toilets?
Yeah. I sat all in them all. Yep. Some pretend peas. Yep, I did.
This is
I
a
did
real
all that.
luxury toilet. I could take a dump on this bad boy. if I ever win the lottery, I'm getting the toilet XL.
Imagine if you were like specifically a toilet salesman, but you had to do it like cars, like used cars. This baby gets 7 poops to the mile. I don't know what you would say about. Toilets.
You can slam a 4-inch diameter turd right down this thing. Doesn't break a sweat.
Sir, I'm not allowed to lie to you at this job, but the Shit King 3000 will make your prostate sing.
Does this imply that the lower end toilet salesmen have to have entry level used toilet sales jobs as well?
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Oh fuck!
Imagine being on the lower bowl of the toilet. There's a joke here, and I'm just not. It's
what do those guys do on the weekend? Something weird.
You better make good ass money being a toilet salesman. I tell you what. Oh man, yeah, just all the lines. You could take a Red Dead Redemption 2 size piss in this thing, and it won't overflow or something. I mean, you gotta sell that baby. Anyway, we are here to talk about graphics on PlayStation 5. Well, excuse me, Final Fantasy 16, but basically the same thing. We've all been playing. Did I say 15? I said Final Fantasy 15, didn't I?
I think you said 16.
Did I? Okay, I'm losing my.
I don't listen to anything you say when we record this show. So,
well, I'm leaving this in. We've all been playing Final Fantasy 16. I have beat the game. I'm trying to think of a good line of demarcation to talk about where you. Okay, how many powers do you have, Steve? Can you tell me number of powers, if you know what I mean?
Well, the PlayStation 5 says I am 73% done with the game.
Not the question I asked you at all. Holy shit. That is literally not what I asked, Kevin. How many powers do you have?
I am not very far along, if I'm being honest. I have 3 powers. I just got to the part where there is a sizable time jump, if that
okay, cool.
I am much further along than that. With way more powers than Kevin.
Oh, man. Okay. I guess, man, we could carve this up so many different ways. There's a lot to talk about here. Can we start here, Steve? Because me and Steve, I think I said this to Steve yesterday. It's a confounding game. And I don't necessarily mean that as a bad thing. Because spoiler alert, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 16. So, and we're going to have a number of criticisms here, and rightfully so, but I just want to make that known off the top, just in case anyone thinks we're going to be too down on it or sound too negative. A lot of these are just going to be nitpicks for me, because ultimately I've really enjoyed this game, and honestly, I want to play it again. Once a performance patch comes in, maybe, Kevin, I would love to play this game again. I also, for the sake of discussion, skip most of the side quests. I kind of just wanted to play the game. So there's that as well. Kevin, how much side questing have you been doing?
I've been doing all of the side quests so far, and even we talked about this a week or two ago, and I said I'm going to stop side questing because I'm not getting anything useful out of this. But then now that I've already gone down that road of having this completionist mentality, I haven't been able to stop, which I think is it's somewhat satisfying, just in the sense that some of the most interesting stories I've seen come out of this game have been from the side quests. So.
I agree. I thought they were mostly like not that interesting. That's just kind of why I stopped doing them. But there is one, and I don't want to spoil, but it's a boy and his dad, and let's just say the wolf.
Yes.
Okay, Steve did this too.
Steve did all of the ones he's been presented with so far. That's why he's not done with the game yet.
We are 6 minutes into the show. It was way too early for third person, Steve. It is way too early for that.
It's been a rough week, all right?
Okay, Jesus Christ.
Let him third person if he needs.
Okay, fine.
Now, what was interesting too, like 10 meters away from the boy and his dad and the wolf, you can take another side quest that was almost equally as morbid. Did you guys do that one as well with the little girl with the pet? We're just getting into fucking heavy morbid zone all of a sudden.
I did all the ones in that section, and I was like, "Oh my fucking god!"
Those two got way more gnarly than anything in the main story up to that point by far.
Oh yeah, and you know what? That's a good segue into just the overall feel of the game, because man, there is some stuff in here that is pretty fucked up, and that is like, and that's the tenor of the game, and it's interesting, right? Because like we all heard the stuff, they're going to say fuck and it's going to be rated M and stuff like that. And people think the mature rating, quote unquote, equals mature content to a lot of people who are immature means blood and fuck, right?
To their credit, there is a lot more fuck than I thought there was going to be.
Oh, there's a lot of fuck. There is a lot. It's great. Even in combat, Clive, sometimes you're getting fucked up, he'll just be like, "Oh fuck," which is great. Yeah, Kevin, did this meet? Let's start with you. Like, just the tenor of the game, or wherever you want to talk about, however that manifests for you, like graphics. Story, whatever you want to,
kind of talk, if we want to talk about vibe. So I do like what they did. It's definitely got a heavier tone. It gets a little bit depressing sometimes, and I think that tone is fine, but I wish that there were a few more moments of levity. Almost to the point where, so we talked a few months ago about, people were whining about the combat, saying this isn't a Final Fantasy game anymore, when, everybody agreed that the combat has nothing to do with it because you're getting a different bag every time. I do, to some degree, feel like this is a vast departure from what we would normally accept for tone for a Final Fantasy game. It very much seems like they really, really wanted to take a page out of Game of Thrones book, and that this was in heavy story development when everybody was in the throes of Game of Thrones.
I think I would have to agree with that. Yeah, and about like it just being so serious, I feel like this has more levity than that. Like, one of the things, like, we talk about Souls games around here and how we generally do not like them for the gameplay, but another reason why I don't like them is because they are so deathly serious, man. Like, so lock, stock, and barrel. So not even like, some people will compare like Elden Ring to obviously Lord of the Rings or something like that, but a Lord of the Rings has a ton of levity. It's like, I don't want to say they're super duper lighthearted, but it's definitely not the same tone as like...
It's more whimsical.
Yeah, whimsical. And I feel like Final Fantasy on its surface does have that whimsy still. You know something I really enjoyed about this game is all the little tiny world building stuff. Like how people use magic to light their cigarette or pour a glass of water or whatever, right? Like I love that shit. Because those are the kinds of questions we usually ask ourselves when it comes to fantasy. It's like, well, how come they can't just use a fire spell and like this thing? You know what I mean? How many times have we said that to each other about like old RPGs or something? Okay, it's a convention of the game. They want you to do this and that. In this game, they just do that stuff. And I love it. Clive uses firepower to have a little makeshift torch, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of world building stuff to me, Steve, is excellent.
I mean, yes, it is, but like you were saying, there is some detriment of it to the few Final Fantasy elements we recognize. I mean, I'm going to steal a little bit of your point. I mean, even things like chocobos and boogles they don't quite fit. There's that one armored chocobo that I forget his name right now. We'll call him Clive Senior. Has at the very beginning of the story. He's in
That's right.
He's in the big black armor. And he's walking in like, yeah, bitches, I'm the bad chocobo. This ain't your daddy's Final Fantasy.
It's like a Lubu's horse or something, right? Like it's like
I'm like, Jesus Christ, people.
Yeah.
Well, while chocobos are mentioned, did anybody else find it really fucked up that you can kill a chocobo in this game? I did not like that.
You could fight them.
Oh, we've been butchering chocobo for years. It's fine.
What has had chocobo killing before?
Final Fantasy Tactics.
15, 12.
15.
I don't remember that in 15. Although
I don't remember it in 12 either.
Though when Ignis, came up with a new recipe. One of it was Chocobo Club Sandwich. So
what was that like chocobo that you like bought off like an ethical farm? I don't remember in 12 or that chocobo died of old age. I don't remember in 12 or 15 like, being like, "Oh my god, what did I just do? I slaughtered this giant chicken."
The chocobos in 12 all died of old age after I stabbed them a bunch.
Ethically raised, locally sourced chocobo. I love it. That's incredible. Imagine seeing that on the package at the supermarket. We've in Final Fantasy Type 0, which is also rated mature, by the way. Some chocobos bite the dust in that intro big time. So
by your own hand though?
No, they're just showing a war. It's wartime, just like this game, and it's just like, yeah, See, Kevin is concerned about you having to do the chocobo, not chocobo's dying. He just doesn't want to.
They're gonna die one way or another. Yeah, exactly. I'm a chocobo
I want
pacifist.
the crispy fried chocobo wings. I just don't want to be the one to kill them.
I do want that Chocobo Club sandwich. I mean, Ignis made that look fucking excellent. I mean, come on. Wheat bread, few Chocobo fries on the side. I mean, come on.
I bet you Chocobo and Marble Rye pairs like fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about Chocobo Reuben.
All right, you got me on board. Fuck those chocobos. I'm killing them all.
Excellent. Okay, guys, it's been long enough. Graphics on PlayStation 5. I mean, look at this fucking game. Jesus Christ. I mean, okay, performance mode is rough. And knowing me, yes, I played on performance mode. No, it wasn't steady. But it was steady enough. And in combat, it was mostly 60, which is what I wanted. And especially during Eikon battles, later ones, it was pretty much 60. And that's good enough for me. But it is a bit of a bummer, right? Like I feel like Digital Foundry had it correct. Like when they said, it feels like this was something added late in development. This game was like planned to be 30 all along. And then all of a sudden they went, people don't really want that. We should add, and that's what happened. Also, speaking of Digital Foundry, they said something, and I agree. And this is like the worst thing about the game graphically. The difference between like the directed, staged, cutscenes, and then the cutscenes you get during side quests where they just kind of stand there and talk to each other. The contrast is vast.
Yep.
This was a problem in like, and they also mentioned this in the first Horizon. That was kind of a problem. I didn't mind it so much because PlayStation 4, whatever. But that was something that improved greatly in Forbidden West. Like the character animations during every single, they practically look mocapped. Their stock animations for that are so good. That's something Final Fantasy 16 Steve probably should have improved upon.
I didn't have a way to phrase this until now, but yeah, there was definitely the cutscenes where it felt like they were talking at each other and not to each other. And it was kind of off-putting for given this story tone. But also, since I don't count frames with my fancy digital foundry glasses like Andre does.
Oh, sure.
I played in graphics mode also because I didn't think to look at the settings before I played the game. I didn't notice anything wrong. I liked it. It ran fine. I like it.
Yeah, and on graphics mode, you get that nice motion blur. Well, I think it's nice. I think a lot of people bitched about it, which is why in this latest patch they could let you turn it off. But if I'm playing at 30, I need that motion blur, baby. Kevin, how did you play?
I've just left mine in graphics. I haven't fucked with it either, and I've had a totally fine experience with it.
Okay.
I think even I guess talking about the side quest character interactions, I think it was much more jarring in this than the original Horizon. Actually, I think it's it sticks out like a sore thumb in this case. So yeah, 95% of the time this game looks great, but then it's not just those side quest interactions. There's a few times where I feel like it completely comes apart at the seams. There's some really, really bad object clipping. One time I killed an enemy, I don't remember what it was. It was something big, and you could just walk right on through it like nothing was there, and then Clive's head is just bobbing around in the middle of this thing. And I've seen but like sometimes the way like the edge of like a stream will interact with the environment or something. There's I don't know. It looks so good that when something doesn't look good, it's a little bit jarring. I also have one other little tangent to drag us off while we're on graphics, and I think I've kind of brought this up before, and I don't think anybody else agrees with me. But as an overall design opinion, the more effort we put into making things look graphically complex, the harder it is to make it intuitive to interact with those environments. And I think this game has a fairly big problem with that. There's kind of, you have the areas where there is quite a bit of, like stuff in the middle of the area to work around. And it's hard to navigate in there. It's hard to know where you're supposed to be going. And then you also have these giant ass areas with maybe a few fences or windrows of trees going through the middle, but it's basically a big oval or, a series of interconnected ovals that have, a barrier around. And they wind up feeling samey because it's difficult to make them like to introduce that complexity in there because it's like too graphically advanced somehow.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm getting at?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think that's why they added the thing of like, you can hold L3 and tell you which way to go, which seems a little, I don't know. Some people might think that's kind of cheap, but honestly, if you're making a game like this, it's kind of necessary.
Steve thinks that's very cheap, but
why?
Because never mind. No.
What?
No. Then it's going to be too complaining.
No. That's more interesting than what I was going to say. Go ahead, tell me.
Because you guys are Square fucking Enix, and you should know better by this point. There.
That's all you got. That wasn't more interesting than what I was going to say. Then never mind.
I don't know. I don't know. After 15, it felt kind of lazy to be sent traipsing around in one direction most of the time and still being confused half the time because we can't hop over the knee-high fence, even though we can transform into these other things at will, but we can't hop a fence or crawl over a bush. It's like, come on.
Well,
so what is the answer to this? Because I don't want us to go back to having like very like jagged edge basic walls that looks like we're playing Nintendo 64. But I also it breaks the immersion when you do have to go in and say, where am I supposed to be going in these complex environments? Because there's just like a billion trees and I can't even tell what I should or shouldn't be interacting with.
I'm not sure that there is a great solution right now. Because I think AAA games of the past, and I don't like this, they do like the glowing shit or they do the yellow shit and stuff that I hate that stuff. You guys know that. So I don't want them to do that. I'll take the hold the L3 over that shit any day of the week, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a great answer right now. I can tell you this. When I was playing 16, I really didn't feel that way, Kevin. Maybe I just spammed the L3 too much or whatever, but like I didn't really feel, especially in the outdoors areas. It was the dark interiors is where I got fucking lost. You know, that's where I was like, okay, I'm going the wrong way. I need to, outside didn't really feel that way.
There was a dense forest area fairly early on in the game, and I remember that one in specific. I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be going, and I can't tell where I can go without looking at the map. So I don't know. At the same time, though, I mean, the answer to this, I think, is make everything open world. That's not a good answer, because if this game was open world, there wouldn't be near as much polish or specific effort put on what they did do there. But I mean, I guess just where you can go wherever you want, that kind of maybe is the only way to open that up. If you want to make these very customized, well-designed specific areas, I think that's where you're going to always run into this problem.
Yep.
Quick thing about the whole map thing. I just found it jarring in general. Yeah, I knew it was coming. We talked about it, how it was coming. And I'm sure they saved a few bucks by not having a traditional world map, and I didn't want to write it off immediately, but it had to feel a little jarring, right? We're going through a thing in the story, and then all of a sudden, back on the map. I'll admit this is due to some of my own bias of, oh, neat, we're doing medieval-esque Final Fantasy again, and that's my own brain filling in what that is. But I mean, it's very hard to get engrossed in what we're doing when we're running down different decorated corridors, essentially, and then we're just flung back to map screens.
We haven't had a world map in over 20 years. Like, we're not going back to that. We haven't had one since 9. So I just think that's just a reality of the situation. Yeah, okay, we have a map, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like, actually traversing it, nah, we're not going to be doing that anymore, unfortunately. So I don't know. It's just the way it is. I don't actually have a whole lot to say about combat as far as like what has already been talked about, like, if it's real time, blah, blah, blah. I was pretty satisfied with it. There's a couple big drawbacks, though. How about I just say the negative stuff, since that's what we seem to be doing. I promise I like this game, everybody. So 2 things. 1, that stamina bar on either mid bosses or big bosses or whatever. Actually, not so much on big bosses. It's really the mid bosses. They soak up all the damage. You got to get that stamina bar down, and then they all play out relatively the same way. The same strategy to them. Dodge attack, use your Garuda claws, etc. And there just isn't a whole lot of variation in like your basic combo either. Usually games like this will have 2 attack buttons, like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta. This just has like the 1. So it's kind of yeah, you can do like magic in the middle of it, but that's just not really the same. If you just had like 2 buttons to attack with, I feel like they wanted to keep it simple enough. That's probably it. I think I just answered my own question, right? This entire game seems very, very concerned with people not liking this real-time battle system, right, Steve? Like, they spend a lot of time trying to court people who don't want to do that because Final Fantasy, and in the end, they make it a little more shallow than it should be. Is that fair to say?
Okay. You know what we got here? We have... I'll just fucking say it. The combat here is watered down Bayonetta with a JRPG tugging at us to keep it from going too wild. We find things to fight, we smack them around with fancy combos, and we even stop time if we dodge and parry at the right moment. We're one strip show and an avocado away from ultimate climaxes or whatever. I mean, that can be okay, but it is incredibly shallow because we're finding the same combos again and again. And Kevin didn't find it yet, but the last thing I picked up has made even has the two that has the two hotkeys that I assigned to it make most fights even more trivial than they already were. So,
I was just gonna say, I think part of what you're saying though is that the game is just piss easy. And that has not a whole lot to do with like the combat in general. It doesn't really get any harder as you go along. Kevin isn't that far yet, but Kevin, I thought this game like from front to back was like pretty easy. I'm sure you've been having like no resistance so far in your playthrough.
Yeah, no, actually, I died one time on one of the boss fights, and then all of the, when they revive you halfway through the boss fight, and there's like, here's all your potions and high potions to get going again. So then it's dirt easy.
Yeah. It just, because if you die, they'll be like, oh, here's the boss now at 33% health. Here's all your potions. Okay, go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, that's fine. But if the game's going to be easy, you need the combat should probably be a little more interesting than it is. Again, it's not bad. Over the course of the playthrough, it was a little tiring, but it was fine. I never was like, oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over.
There are a few little weird nuances with it, and I like the combat too. I always have fun when I'm doing the combat, just as from a gameplay loop perspective. I have for some of your Eikon abilities. It's hard to dodge once you start them. It seems like it locks you in before an animation for an attack from an enemy will start playing, and it's hard to dodge sometimes, which is just a little annoying. And also the lock-on system. If you use L2 to lock on, that almost feels broken. So I tried doing that for a while and then just completely gave up the locking on and had infinitely better time once I gave up that. I want to completely. Steve was like, "Oh no, I don't have any problems with this at all." I don't know how the fucking switching between the hotkeys for your items and the hotkeys for the Torgal powers is bullshit, because I constantly am, when I'm in the heat of the moment and I want to tell Torgal to fucking ravage somebody, and then I just accidentally used a high potion I didn't need at all. That's happened like 30 fucking times. It's a bad system. That's the thing I hate worse than anything about this game is the fucking hotkeys for the Torgal powers.
Likewise, I have to agree. Steve can tell us how we're dumb now.
Torgal is a good boy. Leave him be. He helps you find the right direction when you get lost.
Wow. Get rid of the locking and let me hold L2 to use my Torgal shit. That's what we need.
That's what we should do. That's what we should do. Actually, that's probably a lot better. Yeah. Or it should be like hold for another set and then do it, not just like you hold R2 and then press a thing to do.
Not hit left to go back and forth, because I don't have time to stop. And like I'm pretty sure I left it on Torgal, but apparently fucking not. Now my high potion is gone. I hate it.
You say it like there's no high potions in the game. There's money all over the place.
It pisses me
That's
off.
Not the fucking point.
Again, it's not. Yeah, it's not a hard game. I don't really need those potions, but it just is like a hoarder mentality. I don't want to use them when I don't fucking need them, and I don't want Torgal sitting there like an idiot doing nothing.
How does Torgal heal you anyway? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
He knows cure. They told you this in the. Never mind.
He does not know cure.
They say it in the prompt when you said Torgal's going to help you in battle. This is the stuff he knows how to do.
No, he can cure you. I don't think he knows the spell cure.
I'm pretty sure they say he literally knows cure.
Oh my God! There's no way a dog
heals from being cute.
I feel like this is Air Bud right now. A dog can't use cure. Like,
well, while we're on items, can we talk about the like crafting materials being completely fucking useless? Because I've basically used none of them. Once in a while, I'll get like the one special thing that I need to make like the fancy new sword that's going to bump me up 10 points. But other than that, like that's why I feel almost stupid spending my time doing the side quests, because I keep getting more fucking sharp fangs and bloody fur or whatever the fuck I'm getting, and it's just building up a number in my inventory and doing nothing, because any of the shit that I can craft is not as good as what I'm using.
Kevin, the real price for doing the side quest is getting the real story, because you know what the real story in Final Fantasy 16 is? A thing has happened. A thing has happened. Yes, a thing has happened. Let's keep talking about this for 10 seconds.
All right, now you're just
can we
being
at least
an
press
asshole.
X to let the player at home skip dialogue? No, we must keep talking about this. Okay. Then they move on to the next part of the map. Say, let's keep talking about the thing we just talked about at length.
All right, I get it. Now I'm tired of your dialogue.
I want to go down this because I have been thinking about Steve while I've been playing this, because I think he has a lower tolerance than any of us for this, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed by how much time I'm spending watching a movie versus playing a game. Is that like getting under your skin for this game, Steve?
Sometimes, because I'm having fun and I want to keep having fun, but also let's move it along. I only need to hear you say a thing once. We don't need to keep going. Is there a test? Is that why you need? Is that why you're saying everything again and again? Should I be taking notes? Do I need to crib things from the active time lore? I mean, which has been very helpful in certain cases.
I feel like the exposition is interesting. There's just so much of it,
and it overlaps with itself.
That was fine. I'll tell you.
Andre's disappointed in us.
No, it's fine.
Look at these noobs that have no taste for story.
No, you really don't. But I knew that already. Otherwise, Okay, we've made it this far. I want to talk about the Eikon battles and spectacle in general. So I might talk at length here. Please interrupt me as much as you feel like to tell me I'm a dumbass. So during that Final Fantasy 16 presentation last month, like the one that happened during like the Summer Games Fest week, a few different companies had like pre-recorded segments on that thing saying that they helped work on Final Fantasy 16, but they couldn't exactly say what they did because they were not allowed to yet. And I don't think they have yet, but after a couple of those Eikon battles, I think we can say with 100% certainty that Platinum Games did that shit. Because that was like Bayonetta 3 except good. Steve. Like that was exactly what not to that, it's not going to look like that, but you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it definitely looked better.
And also I was a little scared at first because you have that like short Eikon battle at the bit like in the intro of the game, I didn't think that one was very good. And I was like, I hope they're not all like this. They're not all like that. They're incredible and they keep getting better. You will do one and you'll be like, I don't know how this can look any better or be any crazier. And then they do it some more. They keep upping the ante in a way that I think is stupendous. I've never seen anything like that on a video game screen before. And I loved it because you guys know I love spectacle. See, I always use that word spectacle, right? And I don't think I've ever truly explained what I mean. So if you'll allow me, give me a second here. Sonic Adventure is like one of my favorite games of all time. Like, no joke. People like to talk shit and whatever. I love that game. And I always talk about its spectacle. And that is, to me anyway, graphics, the direction, as in like camera angles, like literally like, I don't know if you want to call it cinematography or whatever, like literally the way it's directed, whether it's cutscene or real-time gameplay, like the angle it strikes, right? And the right amount of like cutscene interjection versus like player control, that balance is very important. And audio, of course, you need great music or you need dialogue, or you need all that stuff. You need something dramatic or whatever that may be to tie it all together. And that's a very, very delicate balance, and it's really easy to get wrong. But Sonic Adventure and its sequel get that perfectly right for me. Something like, you guys remember Asura's Wrath? Like that Capcom game for like 360, which was basically like a giant glorified like Dragon Slayer cutscene. I think that's like one of the worst games of all time. Because if you even want to call it a game, because I think Asura's Wrath gets that completely wrong. So it's like, it's a very delicate balance, and bringing that back to Final Fantasy 16, I think this game gets it pretty much correct.
I would say saying that it gets it correct is understating it, because I'm usually the guy who's going at you saying, this is all spectacle and there's no substance. And the focus of this game is the spectacle, but it's done very well where I can appreciate it. I like that spectacle because it has a solid foundation, right? And you're absolutely right when you're talking about the Eikon battles and the first one not being good, because I was a little bit hesitant about that. That was one, I talk about, it felt like it was like a bullshitty, like Panzer Dragoon type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel like what I was doing was substantial. But yeah, later on, the Eikon battles, like, you're definitely playing them and the spectacle is there. So yeah, I think it's more than just done it correctly.
Yes.
Oh, I must be playing a different game then, because as I was playing more of these Eikon battles, I don't know, maybe it's just because they get way too long, or I've caught on to the word bullshit or whatever. Okay, I'm going to step back to Bayonetta for a second. Yes, another home of the spectacle. There's a lot of all that same things too, but you can lose those if you get lazy. Yes, you can hop on from a reasonable checkpoint in most situations, but no one's going to deny that your input matters and can get you bonus points or whatever else. There are big chunks of time in these where you're kind of just watching and they're like, oh, push a button now. And then you're just watching again for entire minutes. And I'm only bringing up Bayonetta again because Platinum said they helped out the loudest. And there was this one scene in particular while I was doing one where I had to take a phone call. Yeah, Steve, sometimes people call Steve. So
no, he's doing it again.
Yeah, so I pushed mute on the TV in a hurry, and I took my phone call, and I came back, and wouldn't you know it, the other Eikon was waiting very patiently to mash the square button a few times. And that just broke all the immersion I had.
Winning or losing doesn't fucking matter in spectacle. I don't even know why who cares? Because
let me have some agency in this.
No. The game is showing you what it needs to show you. That's the point of spectacle.
No. Let me watch the Eikons kill each other with the uppity Latin. Don't pretend I had anything to do with this. Play the cutscene, show the spectacle.
In some cases, I think that's justified in portions of these battles, but I don't think, other than that first one, that any of the Eikon battles, I would say there's not, I would say the bulk of them, there's player agency there. That then, maybe as it gets closer to tailing at the end, that's when you watch them like fucking jump up and fly around the moon 4 times and, like flick their tail and then come dive bombing. And then you got to hit square quick. But that's not the majority.
Push
of it.
Back at me. That's all I want. If I'm going to be watching this the whole time, this is Final Fantasy 16, not Final Fantasy Mystic Quest 2. I just wanted a bit of challenge while I'm doing all this stuff that you're making me do.
I don't want to be. I don't know. Final Fantasy 16, don't listen to him. Do not push back at me. Give me all the pretty. Never push back at me. I do not want to lose an Eikon battle because I don't want to look at all that shit again because I just saw it. Let me see the whole fucking thing in one go. Never push back at me. Give me what I want.
I mean, I already got what I wanted this year. It's called Legend of Zelda.
Shut
Tears
the
of the
fuck
Kingdom.
up. God damn. Fuck
so,
you.
I gotta side with Andre on this one. I think the Eikon battles are fucking sweet.
Yeah. Jesus fucking
I said
Christ.
They looked nice. I just said they drag on too damn long.
I think they're fun. They're fun.
Yeah, you didn't get far along yet, Kevin. Wait till you do a few more of those Eikon battles. Then the kids run in the room, and then we'll see how much fun you're having then.
Okay, you can press. There's this thing on the controller. You can press options, and you can pause the game at any point that you want to. You can do that. You're the one who decided to take a phone call while letting the game run. Nobody told your ass to fucking do that.
You see, it's funny because the game still makes noise when you push options.
What does that mean?
If I get further along and I feel like Steve is right, the more I've played, I will be transparent about it. But let's move on before you guys get sassy.
I don't even want to talk to him anymore. Okay.
Nah.
We're talking about the battles. Tell us about the music, because I'm surprised you didn't lead in with this.
I mean, Jesus Christ, not just the Eikon battle music, but the entire game is fucking stupid. This is like a miniature fuck I was wrong, because on these very airwaves before, I said that I wished Yoko Shimomura had returned because she did Final Fantasy 15, excuse me. And I wanted her to do 16. She does not do 16. Masahiro, I cannot remember Soken's first name. It doesn't matter. Soken-san. Who also did Final Fantasy 14, of which Yoshi P is a director of, so he just brought over his guy. And it's clear that while Yoko would have, obviously knocked it out of the park, as she always does, Soken quote-unquote, saw what this game was. And he delivered on every level. Like, Final Fantasy 16 has an incredible soundtrack. It's better than 15. It's better.
Awesome.
It's quiet when it needs to. It's dramatic. It's electronic when it needs to be. It's wild. It does everything. I already talked about the Eikon battles. They're so over the top. Soken was the right person for the job here. Fuck, I was wrong. Excuse me. There isn't a whole lot for me to say about the voice acting except a couple things. One, I like that all the prostitutes in this game are like, they always say like weird. They're like, "Can I sheath that sword for you?" Or "Let me. Why don't you come inside and let me polish that scabbard?" And like it's always like sword analogy, right? It's weird.
They should have just let it fly a little bit more. Like, if you didn't have that tattoo on your face, I would lick your ass.
Yeah, they should have just gone there.
I am sure they went all over the place, and then they sent it to the ESRB, and they said, "Nah, you got to cut these out." And then they went, "Okay," and that's how we got the ones we got.
It's like when you try to knock it at NC-17.
Mm-hmm. I don't want you to gloss over the electronic music comment too quickly. So that Eikon battle right before the time jump, the last thing I did when I played, because for the most part, this is very like medieval fantasy type music. And then all of a sudden it sounds like something that was like, cut from the fucking Matrix soundtrack all of a sudden. It reminded me of, there's the song Deep Enough by Live. That was like early 2000s. It really had that vibe.
Yeah.
The music there was great.
Yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere.
No spoilers, of course. You're going to get more of that and cooler. So you have something to look forward to there. It is stupendous.
Hey, Andre, while we're still sitting on music, you know why Yoko really couldn't be in this game, right?
Why?
Because she was hard at work redoing all her, excellent work on Super Mario RPG coming later this year to Nintendo Switch.
We're going to take a break and I'm going to execute Steve. Be right back.
Fine time.
All right, we're back. Me and Steve had a debate, and we decided his penance was that he is going to give me the best Byron Rosfield impression he could possibly muster.
Clive Rosfield is dead, but nowhere near as dead as the brains of those that say Final Fantasy 16 is not a real Final Fantasy.
That's pretty good. Two things about Byron real quick. One, he really does look like, he just doesn't look like some dude, right? The family resemblance is like crazy, but that's like, I know that sounds wild. Okay, yeah, they should look similar, but like I don't know, with today's graphics, you can really bake that shit in, and like cheekbones and like other like facial features that you couldn't before. It's wild. You know, I'm not saying that he just looks like Clive but older, but you know, which is what they usually do, right? But no, in this game, they actually do it. 2, that man's voice is it's just a delight. Easily my favorite character in the game. Whenever he was on screen and just said it doesn't matter what's going on. It was just like, dear fellows, I am getting laid tonight. I mean, it was just, he doesn't care.
Shit. What was I going to do? Get pussy up. No, I don't have it anymore. Fuck. Damn it, humidity.
Well, you know what?
We're
keeping that. Okay. We're not going to spoil it here. We can't really talk about story like strictly. But there is a couple things I want to say. Just, it's my kind of world. I love this shit. War and political intrigue and you know, struggles for power and monarchies and sex, a lot of sex and relationships throughout. Absolutely here for that shit. One thing that's always been kind of tough for me about Final Fantasy that I kind of realized when playing this game is that the characters in them I usually don't like. The original Final Fantasy VII, I don't like those people at all. 8? Get out of here. 10, I like some of them, you know, and that's kind of the thing. 13, some of the worst characters I've ever had the displeasure of hanging out with. So, you know, but I think they've gotten better in recent years. I like the 4 guys in Final Fantasy 15, and I like the characters in 16 as well. So in recent times, rather, they have been better for me about that.
Do you guys think tone wise that 16 is a little bit out of an outlier for what you would consider as tone wise for the series overall? I know that's a wide well to draw from, but I kind of do.
Steve?
Oh, I mean, we said it before. It's a little more grim, but I mean, I'd say it's still Final Fantasy. I mean, or like Byron said, it's still Final Fantasy.
I would too. I don't feel like this is not Final Fantasy. Like, again, it's not a numbered game, but Final Fantasy Type 0, that's not Final Fantasy. That's like, you know, mechanized wartime with some chocobos. Like, you know, that feels markedly different, and it should, because it's a side game, right? Final Fantasy 16 is very Final Fantasy to me. So I don't think it's any more or less Final Fantasy than like 14, which is obviously what these guys worked on before. I feel like it's like, maybe that's it, because I've played 14 for a little bit, right? So maybe if you had played that and you're kind of seeing the threads through that to here, I'm assuming neither of you have ever played Final Fantasy 14. So yeah. But yeah, that's the inroad that I have here. So it feels Final Fantasy to me, but yeah. I gotta mention this. I'm sorry. This is like a minor thing that I gotta say out loud to Steve. That stone golem thing that does the attack spirits within.
I saved this shot of it. I'm like, I'm going to share this later.
and it's like, it's like a big laser. It's the penis cannon from the spirits
within. Zeus cannon
that he blew himself to death with. I'm sorry for spoiling. Again. I'm sorry for spoiling the spirits within, but this guy keeps firing this laser over and over again on Earth until he blows himself up. That's how the villain resolves itself. You don't even kill him; he kills himself by coming too much. I just had to mention that. But anyway, Kevin, you got anything else? Story, pacing?
I got some questions. You guys ready for some questions?
Okay.
Is this the whitest game of all time?
You know,
we talked about this because they kind of prepared us for this, and they were like, well, you know, we want to like match the tone of like medieval history or whatever. I don't know.
Which included no black people, apparently.
It feels, it sticks out very much so how white it is.
Kevin, I know they prepared us for this, and I know you're not quite that far yet, but it's going to get even whiter.
Yeah, it's going to get so white. I mean, Yeah, this game is pretty white. There's not even like, I thought by him saying that, I thought he meant like main characters, Kevin. There's just nobody. Not even an NPC here or there. They don't even do the racist thing of like this town of poor bearers or like some brown people in the desert or something. They don't even do that.
I haven't seen a shade darker than Mel Gibson so far in my playthrough.
Yeah, it's something. Can we talk about active time lore real quick? Because game changer. Literal game changer. This should be a standard feature in every game of this type. Seriously. Like, I could have used this in, like, Horizon Forbidden West.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, if for anyone who doesn't know, at any point you can hold the touchpad and you could bring up, like, everyone in the scene and where you are and get, like, information on them, like encyclopedic information. And it updates itself as the story goes along. So if someone is no longer alive, they'll update it to say that, or if this or that kingdom is, whatever, they'll always update it to the current situation, which is excellent, Steve. I seriously, I want every game to have this.
I thought it was great. They update that shit while the cutscene is playing. I checked this while it's going on. Like if someone suddenly dies, you can check it in like another line or two in and check it again. Like they died by getting stabbed by so-and-so. Like, okay, that's great. And I gotta say, that was the only way I was getting through those first few hours of the demo, because they kept jumping back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, wait, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, because like I actually think this is an easier game to follow than like other Final Fantasies that have a lot of bullshit going. I dare anyone to tell me what's going on in Final Fantasy VIII. Like, I fucking dare you. Even if you had active time lore, you'd be like, get out of here.
This November, Steve tells Andre exactly what's going on in Final Fantasy VIII once and for all.
You will never. I will, Kevin, I will place your bets that he will never be able to do that. I will bet all my money. No fucking way in the world. Do we have anything else before we get to questions here? Wrap up?
I have one other question. Is this what you guys were expecting from what we got out of kind of the lead up for this game and the trailers, or did it differ from what you thought it was going to be just based on kind of early marketing and messaging?
I got exactly what I thought I was going to get. Honestly, pretty much. This is exactly the type of game I thought I was going to get, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is what we got, exactly what we were shown, for better or worse, which kind of leads into my question for Andre, and I guess Kevin can weigh in if he has an opinion of his own. About last year, we talked about our most anticipated games for 2023. Now, me and Kevin took Tears of the Kingdom. Andre, because he's got to be different, or just because he was really feeling it, picked Final Fantasy 16. Do you still... Do you feel like this is your game of the year, or do you feel like maybe not?
Oh, I mean, come on. Tears of the Kingdom is like game of the decade practically. Like there's no question which is better, and I played other recent games that are also better than Final Fantasy 16. I would say I probably like Dead Space 2023 better than Final Fantasy 16 personally. That's not a diss on 16. I'm just saying I was just anticipating it. I didn't anticipate that it would be like my most favoritist thing, but it ended up really, really good. And I really like this game, despite it's not perfect at all. And maybe in some instances it's a little less perfect than I wanted it, but I don't regret anticipating it that much. I think the anticipation was met for me.
Okay. You were I thought I had something here. Nope. You were.
Oh my God.
You're just a level-headed guy over on the West Coast.
Okay. Kevin hasn't gotten here, and we'll see how Kevin feels after he plays the whole thing. My biggest criticism with the pacing of the game, I think, was that after, let's just say Titan, let's say kind of the midpoint of the game, most of the stuff in between, like the big missions, feels a little meandering sometimes. Would you say that, Steve? I'm not going to say what, but like in between doing the things that you're quote unquote supposed to do. Some of that shit feels side questy, even though it's not a side quest.
I mean, you're not wrong, but also it's a JRPG, so par for the course.
Yeah, but it could have been stuff could have been more interesting, I think. I don't know.
I certainly think there's some of the side story lines that could have swapped places with what we're doing here, but you'll see.
One more thing, just on a wrap up level, I just want to say, like, just about Final Fantasy in general, this series is unfucking governable and always has been. Like, think about Final Fantasy 2 being like reviled by so many people, right? Final Fantasy 8, after the worldwide success of Final Fantasy 7, they didn't follow it up. They did 8. What? Final Fantasy 13 is like unquestionably stupid and like fascinating in its brazenness to stick to that concept. Like, they do whatever the fuck they want. So, like, Final Fantasy 16 being the way it is and still feeling like Final Fantasy shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, in my opinion. Because I've been seeing a lot of stuff about, like, a lot of people not getting what they thought they were going to get with this game and et cetera. And I find that so bizarre. Especially since, in my opinion, Kevin, the marketing and lead up to this game was, like, very clear what this was going to be. So, I don't know. I hope they sequelize this. Not like Final Fantasy 17, like do the exact same thing again. I literally want like a Final Fantasy 16 2. Like, if we can have 3 Final Fantasy fucking 13s, we can have another 16. Like, come on. We have two Final Fantasy 10s for some reason.
See, I don't think you're entirely wrong, because look, a long time ago, in another time and place and creative endeavor, I played Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition on Switch. This took us through the major plot points of that game in a smaller form factor, and I feel like with a lot of the decisions this game made, I feel like this was a lot of the same idea in spirit and not in sheer presentation. Andre, somehow it's like, here's the guided tour through Final Fantasy 16. Did you have fun? Pick up the bigger version when we figure it out, or when we're able to. Except this is the game, and it's good. And like we just said, it's not quite Game of the Year material. I don't even think it's the best game Square Enix put out this year. There, I said it.
I mean, I already said I liked Octopath 2 more than this, or did I? I mean, not that they're comparable, but, you know.
God, Pocket Edition. Again, I didn't hate this. It's big, it's flashy, it's fun. It's the summer blockbuster of video games. We all bought our ticket and we're all having a good time. I just don't see us like looking at base Final Fantasy 16 before they hopefully come up with Final Fantasy 16 2 and go like, yep, this was the GOAT.
This game is going to hold. Its spectacle is too big and too ridiculous to not. Kevin, you got any wrapping thoughts?
I think I also am very much enjoying what I've played of this so far. I think anything that I played hot off the heels of Tears of the Kingdom, regardless of how uncomparable it is going to have some, unfair comparisons, even though unwarranted. I'm gonna give you a girlfriend comparison. Tears of the Kingdom, we were like madly in love, and we would curl up on the couch and just look into each other's eyes and fucking spill our souls into each other, etc.
Yep.
This is a little bit more like, we go out to dinner and she's hot and I'm having fun, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable, and I just don't know if it's like, I'm into it, but it's like, it's maybe not like fully marriage material.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of where I'm sitting here. It's also interesting. Okay, I think I've talked about this before as well. When Final Fantasy 15 was first announced and they were showing off marketing, at that time I very much wanted like Final Fantasy to do something a little bit more like traditional fantasy. And at the time, the boy band in leopard print pants on the road trip was not doing it for me. And I fucking loved that game after I played it. I was bummed out until I played it. And then all of a sudden now we've kind of got that, and I find myself missing just those like little moments of wackiness a little bit. So maybe it's almost kind of taught me a lesson about what I actually want a little bit more.
Yeah. Or just trust the process, as they might say in sports, right? Like it's just gonna be it.
Man, Byron tries his best, but everyone else has a stick crammed up their ass.
What? That's random. Why would you say that now?
Because he said, he was talking about the. Never mind.
Okay. One more thing though before we get it, and then we'll shut the fuck up about Final Fantasy 16, we promise. But there was something I was thinking about while playing this game that was pretty unavoidable. So real time, dark tone, mature rated, says fuck, all this stuff. Doesn't this feel like the star turn Final Fantasy might have in an era of games where Japanese developers really tried to appeal to the West? You know what era I'm talking about? That late 2000s. Now, look, I'm not saying that the Final Fantasy 16 feels like that, because if anything, that's Stranger of Paradise. That game feels like locked into a time period, right? This isn't that. However, I feel like if this happened at that time, like let's just say like Final Fantasy 16, they made a game like this in like 2009, it would have got savaged by the press for not being Final Fantasy. It would have gotten destroyed, right? And the game that came out, Final Fantasy 13, was destroyed by fans anyway. The press was like, "Oh, Final Fantasy, 8.5. This is great," even though the game fucking blows.
They should make 2 more of these.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? So I think at that time, Squaresoft just couldn't win. Whatever they put out would have been like the damned if they do, damned if they don't. At that time, I guess all I'm trying to say is I'm just thinking back to a weird time that was, and Final Fantasy 16 would have slotted into that time, but also would have gotten, even by me, probably just been like, this. What are you guys doing?
I know what you're saying, and I know that you're not saying that this is comparable to them trying to match that tone at that time, but I do think in this circumstance, I look at it as more. I feel strongly about that Game of Thrones comment that I made. That I think that was a big motivator in just a money perspective, and I don't think that this was chasing a trend as much as it was chasing like success in other media.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I agree. Okay, let's do some big. I feel like it's been like 6 weeks since we did like big questions, right?
Well, it's been Super Game announcement time.
It has been. Okay. This isn't much of a question except LOL, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm just going to read VGC's tweet on this verbatim and quote. Reflecting on Cyberpunk 2077's troubled launch, CD Projekt Red's comms boss has argued that the game received some overly harsh criticism when it was first released. Quote, "Then it became a cool thing to not like it. We went from hero to zero really fast." End quote. Oh, I'm sorry. The one big game to ever be delisted from the PlayStation Store because it was ran so poorly. No, everyone was just being mean to it, Steve. That's the reason why.
No, I feel like I remember everyone shitting on this game in the middle of the pandemic when everyone was just desperate for shit to do.
I mean, Jesus Christ, Kevin, talk about no accountability.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because I'm sure all of that team was playing this on fancy ass computers with, brand new 3090s. They sure didn't play the PS4 version, because if he played that version, then he would have been pretty disappointed in it as well.
Yep. My God. There's no real question here except LOL. I just had to mention it just because I read that and I'm like, just no accountability whatsoever. All right, Steve, next big question.
So yeah, Niantic, the Pokemon Go people, it's pandemonium over there right now. They just laid off 233 people, NBA All World is getting sunsetted just months after release, and Marvel World of Heroes, which they announced like a year ago, is just getting canceled outright. And with another press release saying Pokemon Go is our top priority going forward. So, guys, what's going on? Do we think they overstepped following the success of Pokemon Go? Do we think games like Pikmin Bloom or upcoming Monster Hunter Now are going to be similarly axed? Is it like
Monster Hunter Now is not out yet?
They had a beta thing that I didn't get into, but it's officially coming out in fall for now.
I have no idea how Pikmin Bloom is here. Maybe it's only still here because a new Pikmin game is coming out I don't know, next week?
I think that's it.
Yeah. And Nintendo themselves must be pouring money into Pikmin Bloom to keep it afloat because, didn't Niantic release a Harry Potter game not too long ago that was like another Pokemon Go and that got shut down? Am I making that up?
It died just as soon as it came.
Yeah. So if Harry fucking Potter can't make your revenues go up, maybe look, I guess the answer is Pokemon Go was like a lightning in a bottle thing and it sticks around because it has longevity. But I just never, I'll put it this way. I don't think they overstepped to answer your question. I just think they didn't figure Pokemon Go design simply wouldn't be replicable because you would think you could just apply that to anything. And it turns out you can't.
You mean you don't want to just travel around and pretend to play basketball or whatever?
Is that what you did in that game? I don't know. What
know.
do you do? Collect different kinds of basketball? Seriously, what what? I have no clue, Kevin.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the biggest lessons overall that the games industry needs to learn is that just because something is a runaway success doesn't mean it's not a flash in the pan. Remember when PUBG got super, super big? How many games did we see coming out that were clones of that? Now, some of them sure went on to do relatively well. I think, you could say Fortnite was definitely a direct successor of PUBG, but all of a sudden everybody treated that okay, this is the new standard for the only the biggest kind of video games people are going to want to play. And I think only a few years later that's not near as hot as it was then. I think probably a lot of those lost a lot of money, and I think we're going to keep seeing this happen over and over.
It's wild. I can't believe this isn't replicable. You would think that Harry Potter seemed like a shoe-in.
Real quick, NBA All World. We've talked about a lot of games getting ended before their time. Is this the shortest the shortest long-lived game? I think this came out in March, and they already announced this end. Is this
man, so not even 6 months.
Is this the shortest run of a game we've covered on Fine Time?
What was that MMO? Was it a Conan game that was alive for 4 months or something like that? This is a while ago. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I'm pretty sure it was a Conan the Barbarian MMO.
What?
Why is that so Am I making this up?
I don't know.
Maybe not. Who knows with these?
I swear to God.
Is this recent?
No, this is 2010, 11, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, if it were recent, we'd be covering that every day on here. That would be my favorite topic. Speaking of which, I have a topic right now in my brain. Can we please talk about Everybody 1-2 Switch?
Oh, God.
We got to talk about this game.
I know.
Because it is baffling. So let's go through some facts here. It was announced on June 1st, and it was released on June 30th. Steve, that's like a classic pump and dump. That's only this time it's Nintendo. Right? That's like a January, movie release at the theaters, right? They appeared embarrassed from it from the outset. Whenever I wrote this note, it was sitting at a hot 56 on Metacritic. I was surprised it was that high. IGN gave it a 4, which, they don't rate anything bad, right? They gave it a 4, which from them may as well be a 0. It sold 3,000 copies in Japan at retail. in its first week. 3,000 copies. Now, you're saying, okay, this is a party game. People are going to get it digitally. It has not appeared on any region's top 30 eShop purchases. You know how fucking hard that is to do?
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been there at all. I looked. It's not there. Okay, so we heard something about this game last year, I think, because like focus testers like hated it, which took Nintendo by surprise for some reason. They were taken aback by this. Like they were so taken aback by it, but in people in the know, they assumed this 1-2 Switch sequel would be like a Nintendo Switch Online game, like a Tetris 99, like a free ass thing you could just download. But no, this is a retail product for $60 sitting on our shelves. Even 1-2 Switch was $50, the original. This is $60 for Is this the most shocking miscalculation by Nintendo since like what, Wii Music? Or like Amiibo Festival, I guess, is a more recent example. Guys, I don't know, Steve. This is crazy for Nintendo.
Okay. I watched the IGN review, which is 8 minutes I'll never get back. If we want to talk about things I actually hated spending time on in these past few weeks, it wasn't Final Fantasy 16. It was this review. And I can only conclude that Nintendo people without workstations, you know, the ones that didn't get to make the jump rope game, they did what we did during lockdown. They occasionally had Zoom meetings and they played Jackbox games. You know what's fun about Jackbox games? You got neat little ideas for games that you can play from literally anything at all for dirt cheap, and people can choose to be as engaged or as not engaged as they want to be while in a bigger group. It's a consummate party game where the people in the party don't even have to be in the fucking room. And I get it. Why wouldn't Nintendo want a piece of that? But they missed all those little points along the way. And I get it. You can't be good at everything. But why would you even sell it at that point? I can only imagine it's because, well, we printed all these fucking boxes. We got to at least try. And then that's, I don't know. Amiibo Festival came with toys, at least. I'm just trying to imagine the press being called into the room and you sign all the NDAs and you're hoping for, Tears of the Kingdom or maybe a Mario spinoff. And then they pull back the curtain and you just see the uncanny horse head, like, it's everybody's 1-2 Switch. Like, oh, God. And then you're looking in your press kit for the cyanide pill.
Oh, my God.
And you're just questioning all your life decisions. And, and you know what? You said this already. I still think this has a shot of being a goodie on the, I say goodie with like the biggest air quotes possible on as a Nintendo Switch Online premium service price, because they retroactively gave us the Splatoon 2 DLC later, like, hey, here it is, go knock yourselves out. I could totally see like a Twitter direct where they're like, yeah, okay, we're done trying to sell this to you for money, just download it. We don't care. Don't talk to us about it anymore.
After they sold it for $60 though, that is so.
I thought it was $30.
Was it $30?
I thought it was 30.
Why didn't you correct me in my intro where I said it was $60? You just let me say bad information to the people.
I didn't mean to.
I'm gonna.
You guys didn't correct me when I said God of War 2016, and then I had to find it out myself later and feel like an idiot years ago. So
because I needed to make sure I was right about. I need to think of like, was that right? I'm like, because I'm not sure anymore.
I got beautiful Katamari conflated with we love Katamari a few months ago. No, and you guys just let me keep going. I sounded like an idiot.
Well, stew some more. I got okay. So here's my take on this while you stew. People can say what they want about the original 1-2 Switch, and Lord knows they have, especially on this show. I feel like I'm the 1-2 Switch defender, but that's for a reason, because that's a good game. Okay, like people like that game, and not because it was a launch game. People say, because it sold 89,000 copies in March 2017, while Zelda sold 1.1 million. 1-2 Switch sold 89K, but people kept buying it and buying it and buying it. It ended up selling 3.6 million copies over time. That doesn't happen if you're just like a launch tech demo that's just like funny for like a couple weeks, right? There's something to it. 1-2 Switch, the original, had 28 mini games, right? They have their goofy ass FMV. We all saw them and laughed at them. Like, there's production there, right? They had an idea and like a vision. Everybody 1-2 Switch has 17 mini games. It has less games than the original, and they're like mostly like jank trash. Like, okay, again, like it's the cow milking game from the original 1-2 Switch. Like, like highfalutin like gameplay. No. But that's something, and that's like, okay, yeah, you can't play it with 50 of your friends all playing on their smartphones, right? But at least that's an idea. I think that's what's getting lost in this thing. As a sequel to 1-2 Switch, this is so shockingly cheap and bad that like fans of that original game are going to get this and be like, what the fuck is this? So everybody loses. Everybody loses. It's shocking. Nintendo knew they had a turd and released it anyway. They don't usually do that.
You phrased this as what, was it a shocking miscalculation? And I really hope that's what it was. We periodically talk about cocky Sony on this show going into the PS3 era. And I really hope this isn't. Nintendo has been so good to us since 2017, and it seems like they've been so diligent in we're not going to fuck up like we did again. But we know that they did focus groups for this. The writing was on the wall. I don't care if this game is successful or not. But I hope this isn't even the smallest indication that we're going to start seeing Nintendo get a little bit complacent, going back to the days of the Wii U, just because they've been riding high for so many years. It's the first. I think this is the first time that I can think of that Nintendo's done something, in the Switch era that it's. Like they knew better and they did it anyways.
Yeah, they don't usually do it. And in the Wii U era, it's like, well, we haven't got anything else, so we got to release this. That's what it feels like. It feels like something that would have came out in 2015 and just gotten lost in the menagerie of crap in that generation. Along with like Wii U, Wii Party U, or whatever, or like all that bullshit. We fit you.
Well, I even think back to like, when they decided that we can, like launch with new Super Mario Bros. U as our premier game, like,
Don't get me started.
I mean, that's a fine game. That was not the fucking game to ride in on a new console with.
Don't even get me started.
That's complacent. Right. And I never want to see that again.
Look, I've said it a million times on the show. That's the most embarrassing launch game of all time for many, many, many reasons. And that was one of the reasons, is the one you just said. So let's take a break and we'll have a few random things after this.
Fine time.
We are back, and I have a little theory, a little hot take, if you will. And this is mostly for Steve, but I'm sure Kevin will have his opinion too. But Steve's the Pixar guy, so I want to kind of pose this at him. So, Elemental came out a couple weeks ago as of this recording, hasn't done well at the box office at all, and it's like probably the worst performing Pixar movie to date at the box office, probably worse than like Good Dinosaur or other things people consider a flop, right? Or even the first tale. What was the one that came out on top of the Rona? Was that Onward?
Onward.
Yeah. And I have a theory. See if you can follow me here. Or you tell me I'm full of shit. I think it is just Pixar's time to exit the zeitgeist. They've been popular for 25 years now, since Toy Story? More than that, almost 30 years since Toy Story. And these things ebb and flow. Disney has been around for 100 years? We've seen that ebb and flow. when we were kids, Disney wasn't, or at least, I mean, I'm a little older. When I was a small kid, Disney wasn't jack shit until The Little Mermaid happened. They spent like, the 70s and 80s, like not really being that relevant. Now, they had some relevance. You had the Aristocats here or there. You had nobody was like heating up the theater to go see The Black Cauldron or something, right? Or
nope.
What was that? Oliver something or other?
Oliver and Company.
Yeah, I don't even think I've ever seen that.
You should.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, it's not that they didn't make good movies in that period. It's just that at some point you just can't be on the tip of everybody's lips, shall we say. I think it's just that time for Pixar. We've had Onward. Now, we could say how it was going to go if the Rona didn't happen, but it wasn't coming out that hot anyway, right? And then Turning Red, straight to Disney Plus. Luca, straight to Disney Plus. I think, Soul, which I still want to see. I want to see Soul. I haven't seen it.
Soul is, I won't say anything today.
No good?
Soul needed to be a mini series and not a 2-hour movie.
Okay. We'll see. I'll check it out and we'll see. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you think it's just time for Pixar movies to not be super duper pop culture, or at least movies that don't just make $1 billion every time they come out? Because you can't keep your finger on the pop culture pulse that long, Steve.
It's clear they can't anymore, because I'm pretty sure a bit further down the line they have Toy Story 5 planned, and oh god, no, what could they possibly do with that? They were already pushing it with 4.
I've never seen a Toy Story sequel, so I've only ever seen the original, so I have no idea. But
2 and 3 were good, and then 4 was like, you did fine, and then, but that's the thing, they're forced into a corner with these. You have the people on the internet going, no, these are good because diversity. And like, okay, that might be so, but you're not getting that draw anymore.
Yeah. And then of course, on the other side, the fucking idiot, Disney is going woke and going broke. When it's like, it's probably just time for Disney, or Pixar in this case, to not be the tits. So you agree with me then? Like, we're just going to have a period right now for I don't know how long where Pixar just ain't it.
Disney's stagnating a bit right now. We've got all the live action remakes, and Pixar would be like your bastion of originality, and they're not it, because everyone likes to point out that every Pixar movie is a buddy cop movie, and it's getting louder and louder that that's the case lately. Where person A is angry and person B has to remind person A that maybe they're not always right about a thing. And it has gotten more apparent with these past few ones.
Okay. Again, I don't watch every Pixar movie, and everyone thinks I'm a dumbass because I like Cars or whatever. So, maybe
Cars was good, and I'm tired of everyone pretending it's not.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like Cars too.
I love Cars.
Cars 2, on the other hand, fuck that movie.
I've never seen a Cars sequel, so I've much like Toy Story.
Cars 2 was so bad that Cars 3 was basically Cars 2.
Wow. Okay, that bad. No,
that bad.
Yeah, people, I love Cars. Fuck everybody. I don't know. I've just been after Elemental. I think it's clear, and people say, "Oh, we're still coming out. It's still the Rona," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's still the Rona." And yeah, box office numbers haven't returned to pre-Rona time numbers, and maybe they won't for a long time.
I mean, there's a small case to be made for using Pixar for the sacrificial, because they were sticking those movies on Disney Plus day one instead of putting them in theaters, but that excuse only gets you so far too.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm sorry, it was 2 weeks before Elemental came out that I realized it wasn't Inside Out 2. Maybe I'm just a dumbass, but maybe this was marketed in a way that wasn't appealing. Also, it just seems like a rom-com, literally fire and ice rom-com, which is fine. But do I need to go rush out to see that?
Hey, I'll be even dumber. I thought the blue guy was Osmosis Jones. I'm like, wait, when did Disney get that?
Okay.
And every
All
time I
right.
say that, everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" He's right fucking there.
Okay, I'm glad you agree with me overall. Kevin, do you have any thoughts on what we're saying here? Like, do you?
I don't even. I've seen the poster for Elemental, and that's for the extent of where my knowledge is on this one. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, all right. So, well,
I have a question for Andre now.
Oh, boy.
And it's fairly timely because you and Evan just released the show you did last week. And on that show, you talked about how Head Like a Hole essentially has two choruses. Now, I came up with my question before I listened to that, but it was definitely relevant. So I wanted to ask if you have... And I feel like I'm going to struggle with nomenclature a little bit on this question. So if you can add some clarity to what I'm trying to ask, feel free to jump in. I'm basically asking if you have any specific, I'm going to use the word structural qualities to songs that you specifically appreciate. And structural is probably not exactly the right word, but I'll give you a couple of examples of why I thought of this question and things that I would select. So first of all, songs that have have multiple kind of bookended parts that have very specific and distinct tonal sections. So Bohemian Rhapsody would be probably a good example of this. I don't have anything against that song, but I think that song has multiple parts that don't necessarily match with each other or could be distinct in separate songs. What I would think of for that example would be Black Number One by Typo Negative. Are you familiar with that song? So that song definitely has very distinct and bookended parts, but I feel like they all mesh just play very well together separately. And then my second quality that I thought about was when songs have... They kind of maybe build up to a crescendo, and crescendo is not necessarily the right word either, because I'm not talking about one specific note or even necessarily like building up in volume. I asked about Tool, what you thought about Tool a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, and I think Tool are the absolute masters of this. My favorite example is the song H. And my favorite moment in any Tool song, maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the way through that song, Maynard goes, I don't mind. And then it sustains for like 15 seconds. And all of a sudden the drums fucking come thundering in. And then the squealy ass guitar comes in, wow, wow. Like the whole song builds up to like this orgasm of the song. And that's not to degrade the quality of the rest of the song, but it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Even if I'm not like actively listening to the music, if that part comes on, if I'm concentrating on something else, I'm like immediately listening to it. So whether, it's not like a guitar solo thing. It's more of like an entire band's effort, to like build up to like, the orgasm of the song is the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm. So you're asking me, do I have a song type like that I really
or even
appreciate?
Just like any things that you could say are like these like specific, maybe structural qualities that you would often appreciate out of a song, or you think that can be very well done?
I like things that layer smartly and take away smartly. Not even necessarily like it cools down, it builds up and cools down, but just elements come in and out and really solidify a piece. Now, usually this is said in the context of electronic music, right? Or whether it's techno or trance or stuff like that, right? That's what that entire music is built off of. So that's why I like that kind of music. But that can be applied to other kinds of music as well. But typically when I feel that, that's the kind of music I'm thinking of. So I really like songs that smartly and they're all hooks. They all got to be hooks. They all got to have like a certain thing, and they all can come together, or they can all not. I love songs that can plug and play that way. This is a little bit, I feel like I'm cheating by using a video game example, but well, actually, I'm not, because I'm going to talk about something broader than this, too. So I love when Capcom games of old, especially games from the 90s. I think Mega Man songs, as a general example and a well-known example, is a good barometer of this, in which Capcom songs, no matter who the composer was, always had these strict 3 acts, very strictly: opening, middle section, end, loop back around, because that's how you structured songs back then. And they always came in 3s, but not just Mega Man. Go listen to any versus game, a Marvel versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom, pick one, right? They all do that. Shit. You could say even like Ghouls and Ghosts songs do that. You could say, again, going back to Mega Man X songs do that. They just had this like very strict formula for it. Not that they all sounded the same. I think maybe Steve knows what I'm talking about because he's played more of these games, but even though he doesn't, he claims he doesn't hear the music, but I know better than that.
What I hear music and it loops very nicely. That's
okay. Thank you, Steve. So
you know better than that's my input for a music topic.
Thank you. I
Steve. Come up with one music joke every other week on the group chat. Come on.
What is it? I saw the sign, or what did you think it said? What?
I saw the sun.
I saw the sun.
I saw the sun. Thank you. Yeah.
And it burned out both my eyes.
I like that version way better. Steve was on some dark shit back then, man. I mean, he was that was his dark era. Anyway, so this Capcom thing, to a broader sense, I like formula. I probably love a great formula more than anything else. It's why like the first 4.5 Our Lady Peace records are like some of my favorite music like ever. I loved that band because they had a formula and they fucking stuck to it. They bent it and stretched it as much as they could, right? But you knew it. And a lot of people don't like that because they think all the shit sounds the same, or it's like, oh, it's just another Our Lady Peace song. It's just another Smashing Pumpkins song. It's just another whatever. It's just another Nirvana. I like bands that have formula like that. I love that. Like, what's a really good example too? Who was a good formula band? Actually, now that I'm just saying that out loud, can you think of one? I feel like Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of fits in this category a little bit. Maybe they did some more experimental shit here and there, but I feel like they're one of those bands that's just like dependable. You know what you're going to get, and they keep it interesting within that thing. My favorite example, of course, is what I said, Our Lady Peace, but like I'm struggling just on the spot here to think of another one right now. But I think in other words, you know what I'm trying to say, though. I like bands that just stay in their pocket. They know what they have. They do as much as they can in that pocket, and they don't try to like reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I love it.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm glad too you clarified when you're talking about like adding layers and removing layers, because as soon as you were talking about that, I had a song in the back of my head and I didn't know what it was, and then when you said, you know, that's obviously a foundation of electronic music, I realized it was Technologic by Daft Punk. It was exactly like what I'm envisioning by that concept.
What was that single, that Daft Punk single from the first record? Not Around the World. I think it was called The Funk. It was just, it had that guitar loop, and it had that like sort of, it had 2 guitar loops. It had that one, and then it had like the funk playing guitar thing also. Yeah. That was the song that made me like start liking Daft Punk. And I just, all that, but any kind of music that does that, I love. But I love that foundational element. What about songs that, build. They keep layering on. They don't take anything away. They just keep going up and up and up until finally they're at the top, and then that's like the end of the song. I like songs that can do that too. That usually works.
I can't think of what's a good example of that.
Usually, like pop ballads do that, right? Like slow jams. You know, like think of like any of the Max Martin like boy or girl band slow jams, like a Backstreet Boys like slow ballad, or they always have this like they start out quiet and then they just get to this like place and they're all 5 of them are going, oh baby, whatever, singing their ass off. I love that shit. I don't know. I think is that a formula that can be discerned?
I'm trying to even like. Or even
okay, I don't know, what's a good like I I don't know, REM songs do that sometime, where you just start out with like a little, especially when they got into more electronic years, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, they would have songs like that where they just elements would stack and stack. I love that. And nothing goes away. All the elements stay there. I guess that's a variation on the thing I was talking about earlier.
I'm going to keep my ears open for an example of this and then report back when I find it, because I know it exists. I just can't come up with anything off the top of my head.
All right. Y'all want to do some unpopular gaming opinions? I think it's been a while since we did this. And I have a fairly unpopular one. I know people are just going to groan at.
I got an unpopular opinion, but it's not gaming. So if you'll accept it,
okay,
I'll bring it.
Does everyone just have an unpopular opinion in general? How about that?
I mean, I don't know how unpopular it is, but we'll find out as a team.
Okay, I'll start because mine's actually about video games. Okay, so we were talking about the reveal of Mortal 1 Combat, excuse me, a couple shows ago. And I said, I have a hot take. And I was like, no, I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to do it now. Mortal Kombat was the best when it did 3D combat. I'm talking like Mortal Kombat 4, Deadly Alliance, Deception. And then after like Mortal Kombat 9, starting with Mortal Kombat 9, rather, they went back to like a completely 2D format and have been that ever since. I like the 3D shit. Because after the first few games, it's like, okay, and obviously those were still 2D graphics, but oh yeah, okay, sure. If you're using polygons, you sort of had an obligation to do something with the 3D space, even though you didn't really have to. They did anyway. So maybe it was just a sign of the times. And people, to my surprise, always shit on like Mortal Kombat 4 and Deadly Alliance in that era of games. Late 90s, early into the mid 2000s. I love that shit. And I say love as in like, I've never thought Mortal Kombat to be like great or anything. You're there to do stupid fatalities and see crazy moves or whatever. I've never treated it like a quote unquote real fighting game, although people do now, I guess. But I don't know. This is an opinion that gets me in trouble. I don't think either of you are enough Mortal Kombat heads to argue with me about this.
I definitely do not have a horse in this race.
Yeah, but just rest assured, like this is always controversial, and I'm always afraid to say it, like because those games get shit on so much. I don't know. I think people think I want the return of like, I don't know, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero or some shit like that, and I don't. Like those games should stay away. But like the actual fighting was just Deadly Alliance was just so much more interesting. You had a bunch of stances. You could pull out a weapon if you wanted to. Shang Tsung looked like the bassist from Disturbed for some reason. If you want a real sign of the times there, like I miss it. That was the best art Mortal Kombat had ever had, in my opinion. It's not that it looks bad now. I think it looks way better than Mortal Kombat 1. I'll tell you that much. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I wish you guys could. Can you pretend to have an opinion about this, Kevin? Can you just call me a dumbass?
I fucking hate 3D Mortal Kombat, and that's a stupid, shitty opinion, and you just shut your mouth.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
2D Mortal Kombat gameplay is a saint. Actually.
I think because it's not a saint, actually, Mortal 2 Combat maybe should go back to 3D just to see what they can actually do with it in the time it's been since the last time they did it.
Yeah, graphics.
So there.
Okay, fine. How dare you agree with my unpopular opinion? Steve?
Mortal 2 Combat, I like it. We're getting back to like Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh, no. You know what's funny about that? Everyone thought that was dumb, like, at the time. That was like a laughing stock of a name. And
it was fucking dumb.
Yeah, and like, even then, and now it is just like persistent. Anyway, who has an unpopular opinion minus the gaming? Kevin?
I have an unpopular opinion minus the gaming. Okay, when you Google lists of the best TV shows of all time, pretty much on any list, the top 3 are consistent. Somewhere in there is The Sopranos, which is excellent. Breaking Bad, which is excellent. Does anybody know the third?
The Office?
No, it's always The Wire. Ranks very high on these lists, and I've been curious for The Wire for quite a while. So I bought, of course, secondhand at a thrift store, season 1 of The Wire on DVD when I had seen it. And my wife and I sat down and tried watching maybe 3 or 4 episodes. Man, I do. So now, given we did not watch the entire first season, even, but it all like they always talk about how, you know, like this was the first show that, like, you know, looked at crime from like a street level, and like, you know, it was so like, man, I fucking was not getting that at all, even accounting for like late 90s, early 2000s. Didn't get it at all. I was like so sorely disappointed, and we were both like, yeah, like fuck this, we're not giving it any more time.
Wow.
So those lists are wrong, I thought.
Wow.
But they like talk about season 1 being good. It was like, I thought it was like cheese ball. I don't know.
Interesting. I've never watched The Wire, for the record, so I can't really say, but everyone and people I respect opinions of, everyone loves The Wire. He's the first dissenter I've ever heard. So that's interesting.
It's funny that you say season 1 of The Wire is good, because I feel like season 1 of The Wire is homework. Yeah, it's no one wants to do it, but we got to do it to have the other parts of it make sense.
Is it worth, like, would you say with like modern sensibilities, would it be worth getting through season of The Wire to get to the rest of the show? Because
I'm biased, so I'm going to say yes, but there's also so much more TV that I'm not going to tell you to go do it.
Is there like some aspect of nostalgia goggles with that? Do you think if you went and tried to watch season 1 of The Wire that you would be like, this is good TV for the time, or great TV for the time?
Well, it was great TV for the time, because look at that was all the stuff HBO was doing. Unfortunately, they've kind of lost that art over time, because I like to many times me and Andre stayed up like they've had a lot of one season wonders where things like Westworld and Boardwalk Empire had amazing first seasons,
right?
And then they shit the bed right out the gate as soon as season 2 episode 1 happens.
No, Westworld really fucked everybody on that.
I feel like Boardwalk Empire for me is like the ultimate of that. I'm not even saying like the first. I'm not even saying like the first season of that was like super duper amazing, like crazy level. It's just that I liked it, and then just I completely didn't like it.
Westworld, I'll never forgive him.
Because I think Sopranos was just like a year or 2 after The Wire premiered, and like looking at Sopranos, whether you're accounting for the time or not, like the acting was exceptional. Like that is a great TV series that like absolutely deserves a spot on that list. And you look at The Wire versus The Sopranos. I mean, again, I'm saying, you know, we watched like 4 episodes of the first season, so I have not given it a complete shake. But I feel like if I can't like find some redeeming qualities after the first 4 episodes, it's
This feels like one of those. This feels like one of those things where someone tells you some shitty ass JRPG. Oh no, you got to get past the first 20 hours and then it gets good. Dog, I'm not playing 20 hours of a shitty game first. Like, I'm not. You know, it feels like one of those situations.
If I'm wrong and I'm not getting it, if anybody is listening to this and they're like, Kevin's a fucking moron, like the first 4 episodes of The Wire are great, please tell me why. I'll go back and look at them again with fresh eyes, because I wanted to get into this. I was eagerly anticipating starting watching it. I wasn't going into it, like pessimistic.
Ever seen Mad Men?
The first few episodes, but just because we didn't like carry on with it, it was, I liked it for what it was.
Okay.
We never dug into it.
Okay. That's one of those that gets better as it goes along, but it starts out good. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it's just, that's fine though, because you start out from a very interesting place, then you find out more and more and more, and it gets better and better and better. But that starts out at a very good place and just gets better from there, in my opinion.
I've tried doing The Walking Dead like 3 times where I'm like, I'm going to fucking get through this. Every single time I get I think it's halfway through season 3, right when the governor comes in, and I'll get like 2 episodes into that plot line, and I'm like, nope, I'm fucking done shutting her down.
Well, The Walking Dead's a fool's errand. Don't do it, Kevin.
What one more? This is fucking stupid. So this is, before everybody knew how shitty Kevin Spacey was, I watched House of Cards as it was coming out, like from the start, and I really liked it. And I got to the end, and then all of a sudden the shit with Spacey blew up. And I never watched the final season, but I really liked that show. So a few years ago, I was like, I'm going to go back from the start, and I'm going to watch all the way through and watch to the end of the show. And you know what? I watched all the way up. I watched like the first 2 episodes of the last season, and then I just never went back to
it. You know what it is for me with The Walking Dead, though? I want schlock, and they're trying to be too smart. I just want them to just shoot zombies. And that's literally all I want. I want it to be Borderlands zombie DLC, the Island of Dr. Ned. And that's not what it is.
Can't do it. No budget for zombies.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever read
smart.
the Walking Dead comics?
No. I played the Walking Dead Telltale game.
Right. Yeah. The comics are so good, like start to end.
Okay.
Like super fucking good.
Yeah, I like the Telltale game, actually, but I've never bothered to watch The Walking Dead. Steve, Unpopular, I assume also not gaming opinion, just Unpopular?
No, it's a gaming opinion.
Okay.
Andre, Kevin, I don't like the progress meter on my PS5. It's very, I don't know. It throws me off. I just don't like it.
Hold on. What are we talking about here? Like when you download something?
No. I'm talking about when I hit home and it says, you're 73% done with Final Fantasy 16.
Am I have not noticed this.
It doesn't do it if you just select the game. You have to go down to like where it says like continue game or like, you know what I mean? Look at the story. You can't. I don't think it shows just when you select the game. I don't think it does, Steve.
I don't know. I've seen it. I guess now that I'm playing more PS5 games as opposed to catching up on older games like I've been for the past time I got a PS5, I'm noticing it more now. It's like, I don't know. Now I know I do the list online of games I finished, but now it really feels like I'm just going shopping through a list. I'm like, yeah, we'll just keep
Why
doing the meter.
Why wouldn't you like knowing how done you are?
I don't know. Then it's like, I guess we're not almost done, or we are almost done. There's no element of surprise anymore, I guess.
Yeah, but you don't know how that's going to manifest. I get what you're saying. Knowing the length of something can be I don't want to say spoiler, but kind of a tip-off within itself. I do understand what you mean. However, I feel like the Octopath Traveler 2 percentage fucking lied to me the entire time. So I don't know. I don't know. We don't know how they're calculating that shit either.
I obviously have not been looking at this, but I can see how that is a little disincentivizing. I don't know. That makes it seem a little bit more chory or spoilery kind of.
Well, it's not for every game. More online-oriented games like Chivalry 2, the Darling game from a while back, obviously does not tell me percentages of things because it's not a game you complete in a traditional manner.
I didn't mention this while we were talking about it, but of course, like Final Fantasy 16, just go down to that thing, continue game, boom, you're in wherever the fuck, select something on the map, boom. Like, I know it's been like the system's been out for 2.5 years. I will never get over it. I will never get over how good that is.
I'm the same way. It always feels good. Yeah. It feels good when I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to play video games and I know that there's like no barrier. I don't have to sit here and wait for like 90 seconds until I can actually start playing.
Yep. We can Find Time Podcast on Twitter. Everybody join us there. Look up our socials in the description of this podcast as well. See you next time. Bye.
We'll see you next time on Find Time.
All right, we are back. Me and Steve
made up. They gave each other massages, and everything is nice now.
I'm starting over.
So that's good.
Yes, no, we're not keeping that. I fucked up.